I'm joined now by the head coach of the Annawan Wethersfield Titans, the defending Lincoln Trail Conference champions from 2019. They made a semifinal appearance that year. Logan Willits, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So knowing, how far you went a year ago and the talent you had returning, tell me about the ups and the downs of the last year for you guys like everybody else. And, what do you got coming into this spring football season?
Yeah, it's obviously been a weird year for everybody. We left off our last football game on a pretty bad note, playing a home semifinal game against a very formidable Lena Winslow team and suffering that loss in a game that I think we gave them their best game of the year. I left and our coaching staff left that day thinking, man, we got 7 guys coming back each side of the ball. This is, really something for us to build off of. And then with the COVID pandemic and everything that's kind of happened between now and then, it's been a little tough to imagine getting back on the field. And you look outside right now and see all the snow on the ground and knowing we were supposed to start next Monday, but thankfully that got pushed back. We're happy. Our guys, once they could start working out again, hit the ground running. And I think that's probably the case for most programs around here. Kids want to be active, and that was taken away from them for a long time. So the work that we got in last summer was great. It helps having the returning guys that we have, a Colton Quagliano, a Tucker Miller, a Reese Grip. We're very lucky in terms of what we have. And that idea of leaving the semifinal field with 7 guys returning on each side of the ball has been huge for us. We only lost 4 seniors. They were very, very good players. Drake Van Hefty, Julian Samuels, Isaac Shaw, and Tevin Baker. But we have a lot of returning experience. And that gave us a lot of leadership in the offseason. That was the number one thing. Once, we could get going, those guys wanted to work. And they wanted everybody to work. And they wanted people to match their intensity and match their hard work. And that was great to see. And we kind of got back into school on this hybrid schedule that we're still on. And then we didn't have any sports. And none of them picked up the golf or the cross country or anything like that. So they were not doing competition. So we had some contact days. And now they're back on the basketball floor, and in a couple of weeks, I'm looking forward to get them back because to me and our coaches, it's very much a family. It's like not seeing our family members for a long period of time. I'll use Reese as an example because he goes to Annawan and I'm at Wethersfield. I don't know the last time I was able to sit down with Reese and just have a conversation. And it'll be great when we get into season to have those conversations and the experience we have returning and the talent we have returning and in a shortened schedule, it's not going to allow these kids to reach the goals that they wanted. I know what their goal was when we lost to Lena Winslow. I know they had one thing they wanted left to accomplish, and we're not going to be able to do it. But we're going to make the most of the opportunity we have. We're going to coach them hard, and we're going to kind of let them control our destiny. What do they want to make of this 6-game season? Do they want it to be fun? Do they just want to go out and play every minute of every game? Because I think they're going to deserve that. They had normally an opportunity for 9, and in our program, a lot of times at least 10 games. And now it's being cut down to 6. So that's a conversation that we're going to have with them moving forward. And I think I know what their response is going to be because I know their commitment, their passion for the sport of football.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got so many competitors coming back, like you said. With it being such a different looking season, you talked about, man, it hurts for you guys especially, maybe more than a lot of teams in the state, that knowing what you had and knowing the expectations that were there, it hurts to have no playoffs. But is there maybe an extra emphasis on winning the Lincoln Trail this year and putting that exclamation point and saying, we are still the best team around here?
Absolutely. There's an extra emphasis on taking care of business in the 6 games that we're presented with. And, when they originally came out with the IHSA schedule, it was the idea of 7 games and a potential 2 bonus kind of regionally based games. And I said, we'll play whoever. We want to go out and take care of our business. And I said, I know, and there's a lot of people around the state that know and that cover 1A football, that if we take care of business the way we can, there's not going to be a state championship. But you could make an argument that, it's us. We're right up there with the best teams. We were this close before. We gave Lena Winslow their best game, and that was with, Bruce and Ormiston. Ended up at Iowa, one as a Scully and one as a walk-on, and Jennings Dunker and those guys. And I talked to Coach Arend the other day, and he said if we reach a point where we each have like a team that has to quarantine, if we'd be interested in trying to get together, because he thinks across the state for 1A, teams like us and Morrison and Lena and Freeport Aquin and Ottawa Marquette, who we actually get to see week 1. The state can still allow those matchups if a lot of things fall in place. We're not going to cancel on anybody on our schedule, but I was getting pretty excited when he was talking to me about, hey, if we have an opening and you have an opening, what would you guys be interested? And I said, yeah, we would love to, because we want our kids to be challenged. But our emphasis is on those 6 games. We want to win those 6 games, and make that statement that we're the best team in our conference, hopefully, and one of the best teams in our area. And in 1A, when you look at those 6 games that were scheduled for all the teams that would have been in 1A, we think our schedule's pretty tough, and it could be, we could have been, we could have reached that level. We won't get the chance to prove it, but we want to leave no doubts about getting to that point.
Man, I don't know if you saw my eyes light up when you said there's a chance that you may be able to play Lena Winslow. Holy cow! It was
a great conversation. He called, the NUIC had some scheduling conflicts, and they had a couple teams that opted out of week 1 because they were going to finish up their basketball. And he called me. He's like, hey, you guys haven't posted a schedule. I haven't seen it on Twitter. I haven't seen anything online. Are you guys full? And I was like, we haven't posted, but we are full. And he's like, we're looking for a week 1. I said, brother, if we didn't have Ottawa Marquette schedule, which I think is going to be a great game, and obviously you are probably looking forward to that game.
I am, in fact.
I said, if we, if anything happened, I said we would have jumped on that in a heartbeat. But I said we got them into the LTC for this year. We're not going to do that to a team that we wanted to get in, to kind of fill a hole in our schedule. They're helping us out. We're not going to leave that stranded. But I said, if something happens this year, I said, and you have an opening and we have an opening, I said that would be for sure. I said, I'll make sure I reach out, because our kids would revel at that opportunity, because that it kind of left a bad taste in their mouth after last year. And then, watching them at state just roll to a state title in a game that wasn't super competitive made our kids even, a little bit more like that. We could have been there, if Illinois is not seeding this 1 through 16 in the North, 1 through 16 in the South, that could have been us on that stage, and a couple breaks here or there. And it could have been different, but that was a great playoff run for us in terms of the tradition-rich programs we got to see in the second round, the quarterfinal, and the semifinals, going from Forston to Morrison here to Lena Winslow here. Those are great opportunities our kids will never forget. It's just too bad we probably won't have those chances this year.
Yeah, well, talk a little bit about this year. I mean, we've kind of referenced a little bit, but what do you got coming back? Give me some of the, the skill positions in the line and defense and offense.
Yeah, we're returning, in my opinion, the best football player in 1A, and I don't mean that in terms of he's not getting all these Division I scholarships, but the kid's been doing it for 4 years, and in our area, everybody knows the name, and that's Colton Quagliano. He's been a 4-year starter, 3.5-year starter for us at quarterback, and he's been the leader of our team since he was a sophomore, and a guy that threw for over 3,000 yards and 39 touchdowns last year, and he's the cog of everything that we do, and that we did even when I was just the offensive coordinator. He makes us go. Around him, we do return quite a bit of skill guys. We lost Julian Samuels and Isaac Shaw, our top 2 receivers, but we return our entire running back stable, and we return guys that had 15, 20 catches last year, like Cale Nelson and Brady Kelly, and you're seeing them on the basketball court right now being pretty impactful players. And our running backs, Reese Grip, Tucker Miller played running back last year until he got dinged up and strictly played defense in our playoff run. And we have some talented juniors coming in. We're obviously going to be led by our senior class. We have 6 kids in that class who have been 2-way starters for 3. This would be their 3rd year. And then one that's a 1-way starter for the last 3 years. So there's a lot of experience. Up front, we'll return Logan Troxel, George Lathoris, and Mitch Lambert on the offensive side. Mitch was kind of a rotational piece for us. That was, plug and play whenever we needed somebody. And defensively, we return, again, we lost our 4 seniors, but we returned 7 guys over there. It's going to involve some position switching. When you lose a guy like Drake Van Hefty, that's the ultimate canceller in the middle. And we're going to have to kind of slide our linebackers around, because we think that Tucker Miller's kind of that guy on our defense moving forward. At 6 foot, 215 pounds, he's going to slot pretty well into that inside linebacker and be the guy that goes sideline to sideline. And if you want to run straight at him, good luck, because he's a very physical player. So we're returning those 7 guys. A lot of the guys I mentioned are also playing on defense. We consistently do a great job with Coach Schmidt, our defensive coordinator, and Coach Dooley, our defensive line coach, rotating guys. At any point in time last year, we played, we would tighten our rotation and loosen it depending on who we were playing, but we're playing anywhere from 6 to 9 guys on the defensive line, and we're going to keep that trend going. And in the secondary, in terms of our schedule, depending on who we're playing, kind of depends on where we match up in the secondary. Is it a double tight team that's going to run the ball and run some wing tee at us? If so, we're going to probably play 2 of our DBs and kind of stiffen our linebacker core. And if it's a spread team, like a Stark County or a Mercer County that kind of looks like us, we're going to get some more speed on the field. So we have quite a bit of experience and a lot of playmakers returning. And defensively specifically, it's about shuffling some positions to make sure we can get all those guys on the field.
Absolutely. Go back to Colton Quagliano. I think he's been around a football field for you guys longer than Tom Brady has been, I think, in the NFL, or about the equal amount of time.
It feels like that. It feels like that.
How have you seen him change and grow through the time here, starting when he took over the job for Zach Van Opdorp, who is a great quarterback in himself? Yeah. And you thought, man, that's really going to, hurt, Annawan Wethersfield. I remember by the end of the year, you thought, holy cow, like they didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, when he took over as a freshman, we had kind of had that competition in the summer, and we thought Zach's experience just on a varsity football field kind of won him the job. And he was a very good quarterback. He was a first-team all-conference quarterback, and that was even after he missed, the last half of the conference season with a broken foot. And Colton stepped in, and at first, I think he relied and I relied so much on just his general athleticism. Like, we just let him kind of go out there and make plays. It wasn't so much schematically, and we were coaching him up, but it was in like a week at a time. Like, hey, this is what we're looking at this week. And over time, even his sophomore year, I think he was kind of like that. And then last year, I think he took the step forward of saying, okay, he was much more proactive in studying the film and breaking down what teams were doing and understanding what he needed to be looking for. And it was a much more cerebral side of him last year, and everything's trending that direction again as well. So we've gotten, he still makes those plays where you watch him. I mean, he kind of runs around and scrambles around and avoids the rush, and then sees somebody and he's running to his right and throws it 30 yards downfield on a dime, and it's 6 points. But I think we started to, at the end of last year and during that playoff run, especially teams that he knew were going to pressure him, he tried to stay in the pocket, get rid of the ball on time, save himself from getting, hit by guys like Bruce and Dunker and the Force and defensive line that was very, very physical and very good. And those guys from Morrison were flying around the football that day. He learns from his mistakes. He made, I think he threw 9 interceptions last year, maybe 10. But he had 3 against Morrison, I think, and 2 against Lena Winslow. And we had off-season meetings with our kids, and we asked them, what are your goals? Like, what individually as a team, what do you think we can accomplish? Kind of as like an interview thing with their position coaches. And he wanted to throw for more yards and turn the ball over less. He recognized, this is my thing. Every once in a while I just kind of throw one up there. And he wanted to cut that out of his game, and I think that shows maturity. The other aspect in which he's grown tremendously is I don't think he really found his voice when he was a freshman and sophomore in the huddle. There's so many older guys. He had always, been a really big leader for kids his age, the kids that he had always played with. But he was jumping in huddles with, a Drake Van Hefty, a Tevin Baker, a Julian Samuels, and the year before that, Tyler Nichols, who was an honorable mention All-State linebacker and offensive lineman, and he's jumping in huddles, and those are leaders to him. Those are guys he looked up to, and he realized that part of playing his position and part of being who he needed to be, he needed to take over those leadership roles. So that's obviously developed since he originally came in that huddle as that scrawny little freshman that weighed like 140 pounds for us.
That's got to be, for you as an offensive guy and being the offensive coordinator, that's got to be really cool to see that transition and to see a naturally gifted athlete really kind of turn it into a mental thing and make himself the best quarterback he can be, not just the best athlete on the field.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. I don't know. I mean, there's freshmen that come into programs and impact them, athletically and everything like that. And I think that's what he did. But if you would have told me, what would happen when he was a freshman compared to what he is now, it's been an incredible transformation. I don't know that I'll get the opportunity, and I'm going to be, coaching a long time still. I'm a relatively young guy, and I don't think I'll ever see someone come in like that and have that impact, and develop that way and want to do that. Like it was never like, Colton, you need to do this. Like it was every single day. He was taking those steps forward himself to become a better player, teammate, and leader. It's going to be tough rolling into obviously having 2 football seasons here in the next calendar year, rolling into the fall of 2021 season, and starting to give plays to somebody else, just because me and him have had that relationship, and he thinks the game like I do now, because he's been with me for 4 years. And there's times that he'll come over, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. And replacing him, I don't think we'll have that, because we won't have the experience, and I don't think we'll have that kid. A lot of kids in our area want to be like Colton. A lot of kids, like youth kids. We have kids in our high school program, like they see him work out and they want to do that, and that's great. But Colton's Colton, and it'll be tough to replicate that with somebody else coming through these hallways.
That kind of led into a question. Oh, here, we got a little feedback here. We'll hold on a second. That kind of leads into my next question. Talk about some of the, not specifically, but talk about the underclassmen, the sophomores and juniors. They're going to essentially get 2 football seasons in a calendar year. How will this spring season and 6 games help them kind of advance? And then a lot of that will still be fresh on the mind come summer and come hopefully next fall when things are relatively a normal football season.
Yeah, this spring season, and all of its negative aspects of the weather and just 6 games instead of 9, and playing in this time of year compared to playing in a traditional football season, there's drawbacks, but the one big bonus is, especially with the freshmen and sophomores, we're going to get a nice consecutive run of time here, where knowing we have to replace so many seniors, it's going to be nice, because they're going to be with us. We're going to coach them up. We're going to make them, learn and get better every single day in the spring. And then they're going to kind of go play some other seasons, but then we're going to use it as a springboard right into our summer stuff, and, give them some time off to rest and relax. But there's not that full calendar year of, hey, we haven't done this in a while. Do you remember how to do this? So we have some very talented kids coming up, and kind of like Colton as a freshman, more so right now when I watch them, they're athletically gifted. Schematically, we're going to have to figure out, what they can kind of take, because you coach to your kids. And I know that you probably hear coaches say that all the time, but sometimes you have to adapt the personnel you have, and our personnel is going to have to adapt. We're not going to have a quarterback that we're going to drop back 25 times a game anymore. So we're going to have to figure some things out. And this spring will allow us to, kind of analyze the talent that we have and what they're good at the fresh off level, because losing, I think we have 12 seniors total. Losing those 12 seniors, we're going to have some spots that need to be battled for going into next fall. And this will be a great preview of what that could look like. And whether it's a kid that's going to play this spring as a freshman, or a kid that's going to play this spring as a sophomore, or even some of those juniors. Those juniors, we feel pretty confident. We know what they can do, where they play. But those freshmen and sophomores, it's a prove it time. Show me what you can do this spring. And you might have an inside track at something in the fall if you do everything that we need to between now and then. And, we have some kids kind of earmarked right now that we're really interested to see how they develop. And we kind of have them pinholed in at a position at the fresh soft level, thinking, at fresh soft this year and probably at varsity the next year. But if they look super uncomfortable or something's not working or vibing with them, we're going to be able to have some time to get that adjusted.
Yeah, well, for as much time as you had off, you're certainly going to make up for it with spring, summer, and then back to fall. So you'll have a full plate.
We're going to have a full plate. I actually just went down the other day and was talking to kind of Coach Parsons about, typically this is your summer basketball schedule. This is our summer football schedule. What are we thinking here? Baseball's not ending. Track's not ending till here. So it's going to be a different summer, and it's going to build in probably more rest than a typical summer because of the fact that they're going to be so active from, they started basketball games last week and then they're going to go straight into football, and then they're going to go straight into baseball and track. They're going pretty hard from February through the end of June. And traditionally, even a 3-sport kid plays all those, but they're not playing 3 sports in that period of time. So there's going to have to be some active rest built in there. But it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be fun for our coaching staff to kind of see these seniors out the right way and get them their 6 opportunities. And like I said, kind of let them go. They've worked too hard over the course of 4 years to not have this opportunity. And these hopefully 6, depending on, COVID concerns and things like that, these 6 opportunities. But get them and then develop our youth and just keep things rolling because we really like the product that we put on the field. We hope that in our area there's some notoriety amongst Annawan, Wethersfield, Titan football, and we hear a lot of positive things, and we would just want to keep that going forward.
Certainly. Well, let's go back in time. 2007 Alito graduate. Your head coach, Coach Welter. I don't think I need to explain it to people listening to this podcast. He's, one of the best coaches in the state. I mean, he's certainly got the resume now to prove it. What did you learn playing for him and things that you take with you, whether it's X's and O's or just kind of the way to, he ran a program?
I think the biggest thing I took from him was the way to run a program and the way to treat kids. You have to be invested. He knew that. He was invested in us, and obviously we racked up a lot of wins when I was in high school, and that program when he was there was super successful. But more than anything else, the day-to-day operations was he cared, and he wanted us to develop, and he did. He wasn't a tough love guy. He wasn't like a scream at your face, get you going. He was a very down-to-earth, calm leader of young men, and I hope that the way that my kids see me is very similar to that. Like you said, his resume speaks for itself, and if you know anything about specifically smaller school, 1A through 3A high school football in Illinois, that's probably one of the top figures, somebody that could be recently at least on the Mount Rushmore of small school football coaches. And I can't thank him enough for everything he's ever done for me. I mean, here's a funny story. And my brother just was recently named the head coach at Knox College. So if you've seen any of that, that's my older brother. He was a graduate from Alito, went to Knox, played there. And Coach Welter is so important in my family that my brother named his first son Colin. So that's Coley. That's my nephew, and he was named after our football coach. That's how impactful that man was on me and my 2 brothers' lives. So that's kind of a side story. In terms of X's and O's, he's somebody I talk to weekly about what we're doing schematically, and he loves watching our film because we do some stuff that he doesn't do, and I love watching his film because I see some stuff that, hey, we're pretty athletic at this position, and he's doing that. I'm watching his state title run there for Monticello a couple years ago. We had got knocked out early in the playoffs, so I was able to attend 3 games, and he's somebody that he would ask me, hey, review this, like leading up to the game, and he would know where I was at pregame. I would let him know, give him a big hug, tell him good luck, and he would swing by on his way to the locker room at halftime. Hey, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? You're an extra set of eyes for us. And I was like, I know what you guys do, and this kind of matches with it. So we've been able to speak to each other on the X and O level, but more so than anything else, I had a daughter in May, and one of the first texts I received was from him, and hey, you're stepping into a big role here, being a dad. I was like, yeah, I said, I am, and this is going to be new to me. I said, right now, my wife's probably lucky we don't have football because I'd be all over the place, but now I can commit to being a dad right now. And he's been great with the life lessons along the way, the X's and the O's, everything from high school until, I talked to him yesterday because, he's excited for my family with my brother coming back to the area. That's what he wanted to talk about, not, hey, are you excited your brother's the next head football coach at Knox College Division III? He wanted to say, are you excited your brother and family are coming back? Like, that's going to be an awesome opportunity for you and your daughter to grow up. And my other brother lives in Iowa City, so everybody's pretty local. I mean, those are the things that he talks to us about today, which is great. And then, this spring, I'm sure we're going to have our X's and O's discussion, and I can't wait for those two.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. I mean, I think, from my perspective and other media members, you get glimpses of, Coach Welter or other coaches in the area, and you kind of think like, he seems like a really good guy. But
Yep.
to hear the stories and hear the direct, stuff from you, that's really cool to hear that he does it. He does it on the field and off the field, whether it's leading his team or his family or, now, friends and colleagues like you've become. That's really cool to hear. Being that you've been, in Aledo, you've been in Annawan, Wethersfield since 2012. You've been around the Lincoln Trail for a long time. What is it to you that you appreciate about small school football, that 1A atmosphere and that, what that can provide and what that brings?
It's small school football, but it means a lot to every one of these communities. And I think that's the number one thing. Going back to the Olympic Conference days, I was there before, in the Aledo days, and it was the Olympic Conference, but that's still a small school football conference. And you would see whether we were, at Sherrard or at Orion, the whole community's backing these programs. And since becoming a coach and being involved in the co-op, we have two communities, and it doesn't matter where one of these games is at. We know that in a non-COVID season, where it's going to be packed when we play, and there's going to be a lot of support there. And the quality of football is going to be pretty high. There's ups and downs for some programs, but the quality of football is pretty high. I mean, we've had 3 semifinal runs the last 5 seasons we played, and we've matched up with somebody in another small school conference that's very well known, the Three Rivers, in the quarterfinals each year. I think we had Morrison our last one, we had Fulton before that, and we had Hall our first one. And you go to a game like that, and I think that brings out the essence of small school football, just absolutely loaded crowds of people back in their community, and there's a high quality product on the field. So whether it's the Lincoln Trail, the Three Rivers, the old Olympic Conference, now getting to go to some of the hallowed grounds of the NUIC last year, going up to Forest, and that was awesome. That was something that we hadn't done before. And then having Lena here and starting to make those connections with that conference, it's been incredible. Small school football in Illinois is quality. There's some really good programs across all conferences, 1A through 3A, and in our area especially, there's going to be some representation in a late round playoff game somewhere, and that's great. As a team that might get knocked out early, you can still go pretty local and see a really good football game.
You just said Olympic Conference, so somewhere Jim Taylor's radar just went off. He's really excited now, I'm sure, hearing that.
But yeah, he promotes that pretty hard.
He does. You've seen it, I'm sure. So I want to say, for the record, I love going to a game at Wethersfield. I love covering a game at Wethersfield. But going to a game at Annawan, to me, that's the best. That place, I don't know if it's because there's no fences around it, and it's like a park right next to the school. But I got to ask you about, what's it like being a coordinator when you're at a game at Annawan? Because are you up on the roof? Are you up on a shed?
We have had coaches up on the shed at that game. They actually just, I think for safety's sake, expanded their press box, and now everybody's going to be able to fit inside up there. Okay. So we won't have Coach Anderson or Coach Smith out on the roof looking over top of the auction cars that are announcing the game on the radio. It's you feel everybody on top of you when you're there. It's a great atmosphere, and we make it a point to play at each place every year, and I think that's great for both communities. The small nature, everything on top there, and then the facilities we have here at Wethersfield, we just got an upgrade in terms of it. We had a lot of support amongst kind of alumni and parents and stuff like that. So we just got a new scoreboard and some plate clocks and some new goalposts. Like everything, in our program has been established for a long period of time. And I think people finally said, okay, let's get these guys some facilities they deserve. Part of that might be due to the fact that we did get to go to a Forest and be like, holy cow, like this is incredible. Like our kids are walking out there like, this is awesome. Like, and then to see those other places, and we're like, yeah, that's us. I mean, we're right there with them. And we want to have our facilities look like that. So we had a great group of parents and alumni and some donations, and we got some of that stuff done. And we're doing some stuff at Annawan in terms of the press box. And in the next couple of years, hopefully fixing some of the lighting issues in the corners of the end zone. I don't know if you were there when we threw the wheel route to McCain Smith in the corner of the end zone to beat United on the last play of the game. It was kind of dark over there. I'm not sure how he saw the ball. That was one joke that we always said, like looking at it on film, are we even sure he caught it? I mean, he was in that corner of the end zone. But both communities are doing a great job at giving our kids the opportunity to play at great facilities, and we obviously appreciate that very much.
All right, I want to talk a little bit. Well, we get feedback once in a while, so we'll pause real quick there. So, Coach, I want to ask you a little bit about being that you were the coordinator for going back to 2012, so 7 years, 8 years as a coordinator for Annawan Wethersfield. Obviously, you've had the success. You're very comfortable with the program. But what was the transition like to head coach, like in terms of play calling and schemes and, week to week and even on the game day sideline? How did your role change, and what roles did you have to delegate to other people? And take me through that.
Yeah. So anytime you go from a position like that to being in charge, obviously some things are going to change. But I think when Coach Johnston was here and when I took over, we try to surround ourselves with the best coaches we can. So that way we can kind of delegate a lot of that stuff. So one of the first things I did when I became the head coach was I called Joe Schmidt, who at that time was the Bureau Valley head coach. And he had been an assistant under us and somebody that we trusted with a lot of stuff in terms of game day operations. And when he was just a normal assistant, and I said, hey, I know you've been there, you're being a head coach. Would you be interested in coming back being our defensive coordinator? And he lived in Annawan, so he jumped all over the opportunity. Not that he didn't want to be a head coach, but this was where he grew up. He went to Annawan. He knew all these kids, and he wanted to get back at some point, and this was an opportunity for him to be able to get back. So trusting him from day one to kind of get our defense ready. And obviously, I'm an offensive guy. We're all small school football coaches. We're not just one side. We're coaching both sides. I coach our DBs. But allowing him to kind of put his fingerprint on how he wanted our defense to be was something that started his very first day in the summer. I said, what do you want to do? This is what we've done. This is who we have. He was still somewhat connected in terms of understanding personality. He knew a lot of the kids. He maybe didn't see them on a Friday night basis, but we got him on huddle and he was looking through some stuff. And we kind of kept the same scheme that Coach Johnston had left us in terms of we play an odd front, and we use our athleticism, and we do some of that stuff. And there's just certain checks that we have for formations that our kids just know from the time they're freshmen to the time they're seniors. This is what you see. This is what we're going to do. So defensively, just telling him, hey, you're free to call what you want. Like, this is what I like. This is what I know our kids can do. We kind of had those conversations. This is who we think are our best 11 defenders. How do they fit with what you want to do? Taking on a special teams role was something I felt like I needed to do at first. Coach Johnston has chosen to do all the special teams himself when he was here. And so when he left, that was kind of a hole that needed filled. So I took a couple of them. I dished a couple of them off to Michael Smith, a former player of ours who was very successful in his time at Monmouth College as an outside linebacker and special teams player. And we kind of split those up, and that was pretty easy. We kind of moved some stuff around at the fresh soft level, pulling a coach up and spreading some things out in terms of roles. But on a game night basis, the number one thing that changes for me is now I get full say in if we punt or if we don't punt. And as an offensive guy who's very aggressive, the number of times that the punt got called in some questionable situations were probably few and far between compared to Coach Johnston, who was a defensive guy. And sometimes, close game on middle of the field, 4th and 4, he's like, hey, let's punt, play field position game. And I would, yep, it's your call. Now that those are my calls, there were some times last year that, we played aggressively. And I could cite you some very specific instances in which I know we wouldn't have done those things if it wasn't me in charge. But our kids and our staff believe in me. And that's great because, I want to do my thing, but I want to make sure everybody's on the same page and nobody's looking at me like, why is he doing this? Because that is crazy. But it didn't really change much. I call the plays on Friday night. We stuck with the same offensive scheme. I can do a little bit. I have a little bit more freedom. Not in terms of I couldn't call this, but in terms of the decision to make, like knowing, okay, we're going for this. Like no matter what happens between now and then, we're going for this, and having the support of the coaches to do that, and then spreading out some special teams. And the number one thing that changes for any young coach who's looking at becoming a head coach is you do a lot more stuff like we're doing right now, and you talk to people, and it's fun to have the press and the media, and when you win a lot of games, there's not a lot of questioning what you're doing. So I've been lucky in that regard through my first year that we won a lot. So I didn't get a lot of what were you thinking, but it's good, to have the weekly radio interview with the local radio, and to have the Star Courier newspaper guy from Kewanee out there every Friday night at a game. And those were things that I didn't have to do before, but they've been awfully fun to get word out and to have a lot of positive reports about our program. And about the way that we've been running it, and as much as it's a head coach, it's really a delegation of these are what we need to accomplish, and I have a great staff that's been helping me get those things done.
All right, Logan, before I let you go, let's do a little no huddle here. Quick question answer: the toughest place to go on the road in the LTC?
Coming from here, I think it's Aledo. I think the atmosphere of the game, the stadium, the way the field's set up. And just knowing all the success that's been had on that field, it's Aledo. Stark County's gives it a run for its money. Those are two pretty tough places to play in the conference. But maybe that's a homer answer. But being from Aledo, I think that's where it's at.
I kind of thought that it would either be George Pratt or it would be Stark County out there. I thought it'd be one of those two for you. All right, best on-field memory as an Aledo Green Dragon. Oh, you got to think about it.
Yeah. There are a lot of good memories. Playing 2 years, going 25-3 over those 2 years, with 2 of those losses being at state, provided me with plenty of examples. There was a semifinal game when I was a junior, where we had Westville at George Pratt Memorial Field in the semis, and it had been hyped up all week, and we came out and just took care of business pretty early in that game. And I don't know that us as starters in a semifinal game stepped foot on the field in the second half. So that first half was one to remember, in terms of, just everything clicking for us. And it was a game that they had Caleb Pratt at that time, who's notorious in the IHSA for being one of the top running backs of all time, and we came out and stuffed them defensively, and everything was rolling for us offensively. That was one of the funnest moments I can remember as a player.
Awesome. All right, I've been asking every coach, if you could add one current NFL or college coach, I guess we throw high school in there too, college, NFL, or high school coach to add to your staff just as an extra guy, an extra mind, an extra person, who are you going with?
This is probably going to be wild. I'm a big Lane Kiffin guy. I love the the gadgets and surprises that he's thrown out since his time at Alabama, and even a little bit before that. He's somebody who I'll sit down and break down parts of those games. There's a lot of great coaches in college and the NFL and high school, but I've been drawn to watching him wherever he's went, because I think there's a trick play here, a trick play there, something schematically that they do, and part of it's me being biased in terms of saying I have a really good quarterback, so we can mess around with some of that stuff, and I can put that in and be successful. So always looking for 2 quarterback plays and things that he did. And this year at Ole Miss, he was running a 2 quarterback system at times. So I would watch and see what he was doing. And just his overall personality. He's a great follow on Twitter if you don't follow him. He has great press conferences. Not quite up to Mike Leach standards. Those are some good ones too. But yeah, they're with the availability of social media today, and how closely you can kind of interact and follow those people, it's fun. But schematically, whatever, personality wise, I think Lane Kiffin is somebody that I'd like to hang around.
So it's funny because Coach Otting from Morrison, his guy was Mike Leach. He's
Yeah.
read all of his books, and he's
Yeah.
invested in his offense
But
too. So
Mike Leach, I love listening to him in press conferences. That is something like I'll even load it up sometimes and like show my wife when he was at Washington State. He was, breaking down who the toughest mascot was, like whose mascot would win. And I thought that was just so funny. And I showed it to my wife, and she's like, seriously, like what? Why do you want me to watch this? I was like, I think that's funny. I think that's hilarious.
actually, our nights are probably very similar because I think I did the same thing a few years ago. Like, you got to see what this guy said, and my wife's
Yeah.
like, "All right, I guess." And I was like, "I don't know." Yeah. So
I thought it was perfect.
I'm with you. All right, last question. If we're gonna go somewhere in Annawan or Wethersfield, and we're gonna get food, but we got to be able to talk football. It's got to be a place where you're gonna hear about the glory days, or you're gonna talk some football there too. Where are we going?
Cerno's Bar and Grill.
I love Cerno's.
Cerno's.
That's a great answer.
Cerno's is a place that, at any point in time, you can run into somebody that will definitely sit down and talk some football with you. Great food, great atmosphere, whether you're sitting at a bar or a table or during our playoff pairing show 2 years ago, we actually rented the back room as a football program. Big projector, big screen. It was fun. It's a great place to sit and talk and gather around. One year we threw a coaches clinic in the back room with some local coaches and everything like that. So it's a great place to be able to sit down and talk a lot of ball.
You will not find a better looking bar restaurant either. That
Correct.
place is beautiful in there, man.
Correct.
So,
It is beautiful.
awesome. Well, hey, that's all I got for you, Coach. So I appreciate you coming on, taking some time to talk some football, and have a good spring.
All right. Thank you.